Zoe Feet.
Well, that's the first thing that you said in this segment, but that's not what we're gonna talk about, Bradley. I'm sorry. We're gonna
We're talking about Temtem.
we're gonna give our first impressions on Temtem that just really came out yesterday. Uh, did any of you other two check it out?
I
Uh,
did not.
I've seen gameplay footage of it and Skill Up talk about it.
Cool.
I was very pleased because I was able to make a very cute character, which is all that matters in a video game.
I haven't seen anything about Temtem. I haven't touched anything about Temtem. I just have too many things. I don't want to dive into another Pokemon game. I'd rather just play Warhammer for the 10th hour.
Yeah.
10th hour, yeah, right. Temtem is a Pokemon-like game, by their own admission. It is a Pokemon online MMO with quotation marks. That's some MMO elements. You get to see people walk around in the same maps as you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a more collaborative features. But as far as I am, I'm almost at the first gym. I didn't even actually make it all the way to the first gym. Where are you at, bro?
It really is. I mean, it is Pokemon, and like Willis said, they admit it. I think essentially the goal of the project is they want to make their own Pokemon game, and these people are clearly longtime Pokemon fans, and there are features that the creators knew they always wanted in a Pokemon game, or maybe like adjustments they wanted to the formula. So this is kind of their chance to do that.
For me, I'll get like the two big negatives out of the way first.
Yeah, because there are negatives.
And it's the character designs and the Pokemon designs. Sorry, Temtem.
Yeah.
There's a Temtem that's a little bird thing. I think that thing looks hideous. A lot of those early Temtem. I mean, there's some alright ones. I haven't ran into anything that like has blown me away. Is it maybe the colors? I'm trying to analyze what it is that rubs me off the wrong way.
It really is strange because, like, we're talking about the negatives first. I myself have a very large list of positives, but the thing is, I really just feel like compared to Pokemon, which it's only fair to compare this to Pokemon, the designs for all the Temtem just frankly are not nearly as good as Pokemon designs, and even if almost every other aspect of the game was better, it can be debated that the designs for your Mons are the most important thing in this genre.
Tyler posted a picture of a bunch of designs, and I think half of them are okay. Okay to good. I really like that top right nature one, for example. That one called Kaku's on my team. That's pretty cute.
These toxic Temtems look really cool. I think both of them look really cool.
I like the octopus, the water one, toxic.
That crystal one looks badass.
I will say, I haven't played this yet, but looking at this, they at least have their character design done well, and that they've obviously done a silhouette study to make them unique enough.
Yeah, they have a consistent art style, which I'm glad for, but I don't know what it is. I think there's so many like unnatural parts to all of them, which even recent Pokemon games like
Well, I think
this one's a furry fox. This one is like algae on an anchor, which is weird, right? But like at least it has like a normal natural look to some parts of it. When you look at some of the Temtem, they just have like these really colorful parts. I guess they're more monster than animal. And Pokemon are still mostly animal. Even like stuff where it's a chandelier, it still has like these design elements that are hard to really put your finger on.
Yeah, I guess that's the big difference when it comes to the design, is that pretty much all Pokemon designs take some inspiration from a real life animal or object. Temtem really tries to be... They really do try, like you said, to be monsters, like they're their own thing, but...
I feel like it's the intersection of Digimon and Pokemon, and that's where Temtem lies.
There you go.
And I think this is like real. I think this is cool because they've obviously tried to create unique looking creatures based off of some like they said it looks like they said, hey, let's make like a Pokemon based off of like a octopus or something. All right, now let's amp it up a bit and then combine it with like
The octopus looks like it has a mushroom or a penis.
It does a little bit, but
little penis.
They obviously took some of these and went up to another stage, which like I'm looking at this Piranha, okay? I think this guy looks great. And if you want to talk about things like water Pokemon and the last few like regions, like obviously we got Octolock, the fighting octopus this round. That guy's great. But every other generation has had some type of just here's a fish and it's like Basculin. I'm not even Magikarp.
But I like that as a design follow through because you also have your bird and like that's just something consistent that every time you start one it's like, oh, there's the bird. I like all their natural designs.
It's probably me getting into a personal hate for the fish, to be honest.
That's fine too. I feel like there is a subset of people though that might enjoy like straight up monster designs, and I think they'll really like the Temtem.
Yeah,
Temtem. Go ahead.
I just as long as I can find 6 that I think looks cool, that's all I need. Because usually in Pokemon, that's all I do too. Is I just find the 6 that I think look coolest.
See, for me, it's hard. It's like more like I find 6 I don't like in every region. I end up liking all the Pokemon designs. Temtem aside, the character designs are horrible. Like
the faces are very not cute.
The rival looks so lame, and he's like, "Oh, people have been asking for an asshole rival," and then they came up with this. But that aside, interesting part of the game is that it's pretty much all 2v2s.
Oh, that is interesting.
That is awesome, and hasn't been done since Coliseum. I thought Coliseum was difficult a little bit because of the 2v2s.
It definitely leads it to be difficult. I will say it's kind of exhausting to go through the routes because each battle is like pretty long. Because not only is it 2v2s, but very early on you start running into people with 4 Pokemon per team, like pairs of people where they each have 2. I feel like as much as people will dog on it, Pokemon has this curve to where like if you want to play it super easy, you can. Temtem's pretty hardcore already. I would not like to Nuzlocke this because 2v2 is horrible for Nuzlocks, and these guys are
death.
Huh?
That's just twice the death.
They can both gang up on one of your Temtem and they'll just die. But it's cool though because like if what you have been looking for is like a Pokemon game that is not catered for all ages, it's like this is a Pokemon game where it's like, no, you're gonna be at like this pretty difficult level curve the whole way through. I'm pretty early on, so I'm gonna have to revisit that thought.
Yeah,
I think they're doing
I feel like 10-year-old Bradley would probably get stuck in this game because he would know how to strategize.
Because the routes have a lot of trainers too to also add to that. So it's that's why I could only play. I didn't get to the first gym. I was like, oh man, I've already put in like an hour or 2, just by playing.
I'm looking at pictures, and there's just something weird about the environments that don't seem nearly as appealing to me, and it might be just the art style. Like
I think the environments are pretty. I definitely I prefer the Pokemon ones, but this is definitely going for like it has that indie Unity polish charm.
Yeah, it does. That might be it.
And that is an art style that like you could see it in like a bunch of 3D indie Unity games. Like it's something you might see in Super Lucky's Tale or Hat in Time kind of art style.
Dude, if we're moving into aesthetics though, this game, the animations, especially in battles, pretty fucking good.
The catch animation is so cool.
Like a lot of people, that's a big gripe they had about, Sword and Shield, for example. The animations in this for pretty much every Temtem and just about every move look really good to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm also seeing like a variety of like battle arenas for like when you actually do combat in a specific area. And even these are like pretty dang detailed. I
quite like the environments myself. There's some other things they do, like they give you like an Estes flask. So they're like, we know these routes are long, and we're placing the Pokemon centers in them pretty far in between. But you get like a little Estes flask to where you get to heal your whole team once per route. So you kind of get to endure instead of having to run back to heal all the time, which is nice. What's nice about this is the promise of them being able to patch anything, right? With Pokemon, you're gonna get your DLC third version and now DLC expansion pack, but they're not gonna iteratively patch. With this, you're gonna get the whole like, oh, this Pokemon is unbalanced, we're gonna buff it. This Temtem's too strong, we're gonna nerf it, which I think is cool.
That's an advantage.
That is an advantage. Granted, Pokemon has found a way through sheer diversity of having metas where, like, this piece of shit Pokemon is really good now. For example, like, Torkoal right now in Sword and Shield is really highly used, and Arcanine is the most used Pokemon in VGC battles and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But this is gonna have, like, a proper... Almost every Temtem's gonna be usable, which is cool. I really like... That's probably what gets me most interested is, like, how are they going to nerf and buff and add more content? There's a bunch of areas that have, like, a work-in-progress plaque, which is pretty cute.
It is an early access.
Yeah.
You should say that.
And it is $35, but I can already tell it's going to be, like, at least a 20-hour adventure, so I think it's worth.
Another thing is if this follows traditional indie expansion on projects, is a lot of indie publisher or like a lot of indie titles. I'm thinking like Risk of Rain off the top of my head. All their content post launch is free and it's just updates, but usually they have a publisher behind that, which theirs is Gearbox. They have money being funded to them, so I don't know about this team specifically, but if they have a
bundle as their publisher,
this team's gonna make a lot of money because a Pokemon competitor, even if it's not gonna get a fraction of the fan base, a small fraction of the Pokemon fan base is massive. Like, they're gonna do great, I think. I'm really happy for them. I think it's healthy to have a competitor here.
And
your Pokemon follows you around in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Take it or leave it.
I'm surprised that feature hasn't been in more fucking Pokemon games. But
it's a crime.
Going off on what you're saying about, you know, trying to grab a small fraction of the Pokemon fan base, I think they had really good kind of timing for their launch, because I think we're still in an area where a lot of the Sword Shield hate has died down, but I still think a lot of people are
willing to try. They're at least willing to try something new right now. I will say one thing. It's weird, right? The battle system has me of two minds. I've gotten used to the stamina system, and I like how you can overexert your Pokemon.
That's cool.
So, like, if you overexert your Pokemon, you can still do the attack, but you get hurt.
Yeah, I think the main reason I like stamina over the PP system that Pokemon uses is, like, in all my years playing Pokemon, the only time that the PP mechanic has ever affected me at all is, like, maybe by the very last fight of the Elite Four, one of my moves will be out of PP.
But even then, nowadays, there are ways, like, they have, like, in-between healers that you can use and so forth.
See, Pokemon is a really complex game when you get down to it. If Game Freak wanted to, they could make this impossibly hard challenge, which hackers do, and they're really fun to play through.
Yeah, but hackers do that, and Game Freak will never do that.
Right, but the point is, Pokemon is already so deep. Some of these mechanics, I feel like, are just adding complexity to the one area where we didn't need more complexity. And also, like, they removed all the RNG from moves, right?
Ooh.
Though moves can still miss, I think that's the only RNG left. This should be, on paper, something I'm super down for. But what's weird about that is all these early game moves I'm getting are so boring. They don't have many cool effects. It's just like poison enemy for 3 turns. If you use this move with a poison partner, it'll do extra damage. This move has 10 more damage than that move, but 2 less stamina than that move. And even early game Pokemon moves, we've hit this point where we have such a move diversity where it's like, yo, Bubble sucks, but it can lower speed. And then you have a weird thing like Mud Slap. It's weak in early game, but it lowers accuracy for sure. So you get in these situations where if you are playing a challenge run, these little extra things that the moves can do are really interesting. So far I'm underwhelmed by the moves, but I'm gonna check back into that thought when I see the late game moves and see
the
if
verdict's
there's
up in the air. I really want to see like what the first big Temtem tournament play looks like, you know?
So while the moves are underwhelming, the abilities are great.
Yeah, the abilities are really cool.
They're not like that different from Pokemon abilities, but what's cool is that each Temtem so far has had a unique one. So they're each automatically filling a niche. And they're all like solid ones. I haven't run into any stinkers so far. There's a cool one where, like, if you get double targeted, you deflect that second attack to your partner. Ooh. There's like a basic, like, very Pokemon-esque one where attacks that will hit both of the other Temtem do extra damage. So I'm super down for that, and I really think we're gonna have a nice balanced roster of Temtem. But yeah, like, so far, very interested to get further into it. Got a lot of games going on, so that's gonna take a little bit. Bummed that they kept EVs, and I think they kept IVs. Like, that's one thing I would for sure remove from the Pokemon formula. Granted, I'm sure it's like Sword and Shield where it's easy to manipulate those, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how the manipulation for that works, if you have to breed them or if there's like a guy that can change them. I don't know.
I'm guessing that this seems like the kind of team that would give you a guy that can let you just train them up, right?
Yeah, because they seem like they're all about cutting out bullshit, so
yeah,
there's got to be a guy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned about the no RNG stuff and how that doesn't feel good. It's kind of funny because any game that I've played that's been like a demo or beta that's been like, oh, we're going to take out all the RNG of these type of games and just put them, like, it just be straightforward. It's always turned out to be a lot less interesting than those games.
Sometimes you kind of want some bullshit.
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
So, for example, there were a bunch of other card games that came out that really were like, oh, we're not going to do any outside of RNG in it. Like, all your cards do what they do, but it's still Hearthstone. But it wasn't nearly as fun without that little bit of RNG. I say a little bit, Hearthstone has a lot of RNG, but like when you have none of it, it feels really empty and feels really like, oh, here are my stones that I have to put in place now. I just have to follow these steps and I win the game. Or if I miss this step, I lose the game. Like, it's very obvious, like, cut and dry of like if you win or lose. Which can be very not heartbreaking, but like frustrating and just kind of like eye rolling, and it makes things just not as interesting as they could be.
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of exciting, you know, whenever you, like in digital card games, you know, when you get to a point where you're about to play a card and you know, like, okay, when I play this card, there's a 70% chance I lose the game, but a 30% chance I have the coolest fucking win ever.
Right.
So there's kind of some excitement there.
Yeah. And that's like, and I play war games a lot, and I've done games where we've just done the statistical average of things happening whenever you're like, because there's a bunch of dice rolling that happen in these games. And I've done just the statistical average like gameplays of them, and it's not nearly as fun. It becomes very obvious what units are a lot better when you just take the averages are than the other units that have that sort of randomness tied into them. And I think a little of randomness goes a long way, making everything a lot more appealing and dynamic, and just making everything just a bit different every time you play it.
Then you got like board games like Betrayal at the House of the Hill, where it's like this game is like 80% RNG and you're gonna have a blast because bullshit's just gonna happen and you're all gonna have a good laugh about it.
And those games you go into and think like, oh, if anything happens to me, I can just chalk it up to a bunch of bullshit happening to me, and it's not anyone else's fault but the game's. Which feels good and feels good sometimes.
This RNG topic would definitely be like once we start getting into late game Temtem and PvP Temtem, that's when this shit will really pop off. What else? Y'all got any other Temtem thoughts?
What are some of the like MMO mechanics in it?
Nothing so far. You just get to see trainers around, but I'm sure Bradley played the demo. So did you run into anything in the demo?
So
Demo.
the MMO mechanics are personally what I kind of always wanted in Pokemon because
Really?
I have played like fan made Pokemon MMOs before, and they kind of got bullshit where you'd be in Pallet Town and some dude is walking around with a Giratina and
I think that's kind of the appeal
so I don't know
of the MMO
like
Pokemon.
basically what you're looking at here is like Willer said, you'll see other trainers running around. You'll see them, their username, their Pokemon with them, and you can go up to them and you can like select nearby players from a menu, and you can be like, "Hey, let's trade," or "Hey, let's battle." Like you could, I'm pretty sure you could play the whole game without interacting with other players. You could just play it, like a Pokemon game. I think the way I described it to Willer, and the way I still want to look at it, is the multiplayer aspect where the people are running around is just a fun interface for finding people to battle or trade with.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think people would just want matchmaking in lobbies for that kind of stuff, or GTS. I'm gonna say I'm a little
Is there a GTS in this?
I'm sure that they'll definitely add it eventually, right? I trust these guys to really chock this full of features.
It would seem crazy for them to not have GTS, because that's like
Fucking Sword and Shield doesn't have GTS. A lot of people.
Very.
I think that's because they're gonna add it to Bank or whatever. But all they have is Wonder Trade, so I'm sure they'll add it to this. If Pokemon doesn't have something, they'll add it to this. This will definitely be also like you're gonna get Gen 1 and 2 with the same purchase. I think they're gonna add Pokemon to a Temtem to this before moving on to a Temtem 2. Right now, I'm a little underwhelmed by the MMO features, but I think that'll change in the late game when it's just more than just running into each other. Because you also get these goofy scenarios where when you walk into a house in Pokemon and you talk to the two NPCs in there, one of them might have an item, the other one's going to have fluff dialogue. Cool. Yeah. You walk into the house, there's 20 children running around in circles having a weird party orgy. And the two you're trying to find the two NPCs that you need to talk to in this house. And it gets a little cluttered. It's like, oh, you're the NPC.
Can you play this game with a controller?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
I'm playing it with my PS4 controller.
Okay, good. I would be very upset. Oh no, your PS4 turned off.
Yes. It did. All right. Is that good for our Temtem first impressions? I'm definitely gonna. Once I get deeper, I'll talk about this.
Should Joe get Temtem?
Joe should. I think everyone, if you like Pokemon games, I think I would recommend this. It's definitely worth a try for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's at the point where I wouldn't say if you like Pokemon you will like this, but I will say if you like Pokemon you should try this.
If you like Pokemon, there's a good chance you'll find something to like here. And keep in mind, early access is kind of like a cheap trick because they're like flying at the seat of their pants right now, trying to patch everything. Like the Twitter is very open about all the problems they're having.
Yet, but I know other people have had more than one crash.
My first experience with the game was a crash in the tutorial, so that was pretty good. Yeah, definitely worth a try. For $35, you're gonna get a game that will definitely expand into something pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's coming to Switch eventually.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't think that. Maybe we'll just hold off. Didn't you have to?
Will they ever allow this to be in a Nintendo Direct? Or are they like, these motherfuckers?
I was wondering that. I wonder if they're gonna be
here's the thing. I feel like Nintendo will allow it, but I think Pokemon Company would be the one that'd be upset more than anything.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like Nintendo HQ, they'd be like, oh yeah, we want to show that we support these creators, and it's more money for us if they buy from our eShop. But I bet the Pokemon Company Game Freak would be like, no.
I think we're giving Nintendo a little too much credit. It's like, yeah, I guess we'll promote the competitor to our biggest selling franchise that we are still a parent of.
I will say, I think I would be very surprised if it showed up in a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
maybe one of those indie directs.
Yeah, I could see it in an indie. I think this is gonna blow up pretty well for indie games. So
the pig Temtem for Smash.
Ooh. Nah, he's alright. He's alright.
My OC Temtem character for Smash because they look awesome.